We continue as Mondays bring you Mississippi Outdoors Radio. We're talking late season whitetails as we wrap it down, folks, especially in the majority of the state. About, we got about 17 more days, maybe 18 more days, and that's going to do it. So we'll talk with William McKinley, the deer program coordinator. Major Chris Reed is here, Adam Butler's here, Nicole Smith of Mississippi Museum of Natural Science are all here. And we have it going on. Lots of rain and lots of water, and it continues to fall out there, Adam.
It's raining, JT. Rained not all weekend, but a lot of the weekend.
It's hot.
Kind of sick of it.
Rainy, and it's not your typical weather for this time of January. And so, unfortunately, again, we're monitoring river levels along the Mississippi. The backwater's backing up again, and so we're just kind of playing that by ear. We want to make the listeners aware that, by administrative code set forth by a commission, and unfortunately for the listeners out there, it seems like this is becoming an annual event where we reach certain levels on the Mississippi River and we have to close deer season. But as of 10 a.m. this morning, there were 3 of the levels, Helena, Greenville, and Vicksburg, all were inching closer to those numbers where we have to close deer season down. It's all projections are obviously just a projection, but the Vicksburg gauge is projected to hit 43 feet this Friday, January 17th.
Here we go again.
And so at that level, we close deer season down. January 21st for Vicksburg, for Greenville, it will projected to hit 48 feet by January 21st. That's next Tuesday. And then going back up the river channel at Helena, it's projected to hit 41 feet on January 20th. Now, when it hits those levels, it closes. And this afternoon, we'll probably put something on our website where we have a map with different zones color-coded with the river levels and all that, so the listeners can get it and grab it quickly for their records. But once it begins to fall, we will reopen it. And so just be mindful of that if you're making weekend preparation planning, that some of those areas, you may be not able to hunt. And so it may be closed down, unfortunately.
All right. Drawings for waterfowl hunts closed for the year, but doesn't mean you can't get a standby, right?
That's right. We still have standby access at our waterfowl centric WMAs, even though you're correct, JT, that the drawing periods for the year have finished. The last drawing completed last week, I believe, was to run through the end of January. So if you're looking to hunt a WMA just because you didn't get drawn, or because those are now closed, don't be discouraged. That you can still show up and potentially get a standby spot if someone does not show. And typically, it's not a guarantee, but most of the time, if you show up,
pretty successful to get drawn for a standby.
I don't know what the percentage would be, but I mean, the majority of the time, if you show up for a standby, you can get an opportunity to go.
You're going to probably need to bring a boat to some of these areas, though, because ATVs are, that backwater's coming up quick, and I'm serious about that. Bring a boat.
All right, turkey season draw hunts are open this week as well, right?
Yep, JT, those are going to be opening on the 15th, a couple of days from now. It runs through February the 15th. So just put that on your calendar. You don't get extra points for signing up the first day, so you don't have to do it on January 15th, but sometime during that month-long period, if you're interested in having one of our special draw hunts for turkey season, you need to get your name in the hat. And there you go.
We got plenty of ways for you to do that, too, so make sure you're a part of it. Nicole, what's going on with you at the Mississippi Museum of Natural Science?
Well, we have been getting ready for our new exhibit called the Robot Zoo, and that will be opening up this Saturday to the public.
The Robot Zoo.
Yeah, we're kind of excited about it. So it's kind of a cross between learning more about robotics and also learning about the kind of the biomechanics of system operations with animals. How does a circulation system work? How does pulmonary system? I mean, it's just really interesting. And that's going to be opening from Saturday and here all the way through until the end of April. We're also getting ready this Thursday for Family Fun Science Night. I call this the Whitman Sampler of Science Education. There's a little bit of something for everybody. It's going to start at 6 p.m. It ends at 8 p.m. It's regular museum admission. If you're a member, you're free. And I've got about 17 different STEM exhibitors from across the state are going to be there with hands-on things for middle school and elementary kids to do.
And this science night, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, this is just one night?
It's one special night.
Okay.
We kind of did a poll of schools about when activities were at their most active, and it seems like this January was a good time for families to come out. It's a support venture for parents too. Let's say you have a child who's sort of interested in science, but it's not your thing, and you
Right.
don't know how to support them.
Right.
You come out to this. Not only are there a broad variety of things for your kids to explore, but there's informational handouts that get sent home with parents, like the right way and the wrong way to help with a science fair project. Or here's some materials that you can take back for their classroom that's useful for the teachers. It's a broad variety of things.
You know, I enjoyed doing science fair with my kids. You know, it was their idea, and I just tried to help them and advise them and then be a part of it. You know, I didn't consider it to be as bad as a lot of people think it is. Let them decide what they want to do and how they want to do it, and then try to help them do it. That's the way I always looked at it, and it was good quality time with my kids.
Yeah, I always loved it. Of course, I was a science nerd as a kid. Now I am as an adult too, but it's a good thing.
Yeah, those kids will remember those times more so than the stuff you get them or the stuff you throw at them to play with. Like, they remember when you go places and you do stuff
Right.
together.
Right.
What
So
age
do
groups
that.
are the thing this Thursday?
So it's elementary and middle school. So basically, all of that, that diversity. What I have seen happen a lot of times is some kids come to get inspiration for what their fair project will be. That's been kind of cool. A couple of groups in years past, we've had the School for the Blind come and do presentations about their fair projects because that's where they were in their cycle. And that was really great. So that was a public speaking experience for them, showing the work they had been doing in the school. This year we have some students from Northwest Rankin that are presenting, which is kind of exciting when you actually have the kids presenting. They've been learning about circuits and how they work, and they're going to be showing that to people. So some of the kids will be teaching, which is really exciting. And I'm really pleased that the Jackson Astronomy Association is going to be there showing people how to use telescopes and learning a little bit more about what they have to offer through the year. So if you have a child who has an interest in astronomy but doesn't really know how to pursue it, here's this great club, and you can find out what they're doing through the year and kind of get introduced through them at the event.
Sounds like a lot of fun, and that will be Family Fun Science Night. That date again?
This Thursday, January 16th from 6 p.m. until 8 p.m.
What's the maximum amount of people you can have there?
All of them.
Everyone that wants
Give me
to come.
all the people. Other thing to note, you're looking at the time, 6 to 8. Everybody's hungry. That's okay. Wheel of Flavor food truck is going to be there selling food. So if you get a little hungry, you can get a little food and then keep the science fun going. We'll have some posters that we're giving away as free resources. So much to see and do. Hope you can come join us for that. And then keep in mind, Robot Zoo starting this Saturday. Check that out.
And
It's
how
gonna
long
be
will that
fun.
last?
That's here till the end of April.
Okay.
And last thing to mention, Sunday is our robotics workshop for Girl Scouts, for junior Girl Scouts. You can go on our website and learn about that and register for it. Space is limited. It's our nice way of kicking off this exhibit being here, and it's a Sunday workshop from 1:30 p.m. until 4:30 p.m., so you need to register in advance.
Thank you, Nicole. Quick check of the C Spire text line. Herman says, I'm 76 years old. I don't need a hunting license, but do I need a $15 WMA permit?
Do not.
Okay.
Not if he's a resident.
If you're a resident and you exempt like that, brother, you exempt all the way through.
All
And
the
happy
way.
hunting to you.
That's it.
That's what I'm talking about. Happy hunting to you. All right, William McKinley's coming up. We're going to be talking with him about late season whitetails. Y'all go check out all the good things at the Mississippi Museum of Natural Science. And go see Nicole and her group. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful treasure we have here in Mississippi. Even when they don't have programs going on, it's just a cool place to go to. And it's even that much better and more special when they do have stuff happening. And what's the website again, Nicole?
MDWFP.com.
Oh, okay. And you'll find it, right. That's
Right. The museum's kind of
What was I
blended into the parent organization.
What was I thinking? MDWFP.com. You can find
It's
the
easy.
Museum's Natural Science right there. Thank you, Nicole. Have a great week, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Get old William up in his chair. We ready to talk some late season whitetails, and we'll do that when we come back. William McKinley's up in here, the deer program coordinator. Back up now. Get in front of that mic for me. There you go.
Hey, JT, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. Glad to have you, William. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you. Good to be back here.
You know, after the new year, it seems like deer hunting kind of slips off a little bit for some folks, but this is not the time to give up. This is
No,
really a
it's
good
not.
time of the year to hunt.
A lot of people used up their vacation, but some of the best hunting out there can occur or does occur in mid-January on up into late January.
Mm-hmm.
So deer are moving. If the rut is starting to get past in your area, deer are hungry.
Mm-hmm.
So they're moving more late season quite often than they were mid-season.
And we always hear about the second rut. Is that a real thing?
So we've done health checks all over the state. Been doing them since the 1980s, where
Yeah.
we've checked timing of breeding. And what we find is that the bulk of the does on any given area breed in about a 2-week period. But about 20% breed well after that. So what you're looking at is that last 20% that will breed and come in mid to late, let's say the rut's January 1st, as it is for Madison County.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those deer are not going to be bred until January 20th or later, and there is increased competition for that few that are left, those few does that are left. So you actually can see some pretty intense rutting behavior. Another thing that a lot of people don't realize, rattling really works well late season. Those bucks have been with the doe now for 2 or 3 straight weeks. They've been able to find one. Now there's a lot of competition, and you rattle as long as you can see downwind, because he's going to circle downwind. But they'll come.
When you say circle downwind, now explain that, unpack that for everybody that's not paying
All right.
attention.
Ideally, on a rattling setup, you would want a scent blowing out in a field or across water to kind of block. But he's going to come, no matter if the wind's out of the north and he's 400 yards due north of you and he hears you, he's going to make a big bend and come around, and he's going to circle and come in south of you, trying to smell that fight. Use his nose to his advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But
rather than
rattling,
smelling you.
that's right. If he smells you, you never see him.
This is true. How's the season been so far?
You know, that early freeze, remember back in November,
Mhm.
it got down to 17 degrees in central Mississippi, even in the low 20s in south Mississippi. That took away a lot of food, much 2 months earlier than usual. And it has led to observations being, from all the reports I'm getting, observations are higher this year than pretty well any year that I've been on with the department. So people are seeing a lot of deer. They're seeing them on the roads. They're seeing them going to work. When they're going to work, they're seeing them when they're hunting. We can assume they're harvesting a lot more deer. But, I'll go back to that statement. We don't have mandatory reporting, so we don't find out how many deer were harvested until well after the season.
All we can do is assume, and we won't go
That's
unpack
right.
that. What about the CWD samples? I know where we at on those. Have y'all been satisfied? I know we're really kind of lacking this year.
We are, and we're not where we wanted to be at this time. Where I looked at the numbers just a few minutes ago. We're at 4,791 samples as of just a few minutes ago. We were hoping for a season of 10,000. We were trying to find where this disease is, and we got a lot of counties that have just not submitted very many samples at all. Regions of the state, but really all over the state, we're still lacking samples. And, what we're finding there is we're up to 21 positives for this season, 40 since February of 2018. Places like Benton County, I looked at how many we have there. 18 of those this year have been Benton County. 1 in 13 deer we've sampled in Benton County this year has come back positive.
Wow.
So that's not good. We need to find the southern end of that. How far does it go down? We really need the help of a lot of hunters out there we're asking you, shoot some more deer. harvest some more deer, and get those samples turned in.
Well, obviously, North Mississippi, we know, is it's a big problem. Benton County's a big problem, and it all directly relates back to Tennessee, where their problem's even bigger than ours.
The latest numbers I saw yesterday is they're up to over 400 positives this season. So, yes, it's definitely centered there in southwestern
400
Tennessee.
in one season?
402 as of a couple of days
That's
ago.
just for this year.
That's
Total?
this year. Well over 500, almost 600 since December of 2018.
I know I'm putting you on the spot, but what ballpark what's Arkansas have total in their whole state?
The last I'd talked with, they were just below Tennessee's, and that was about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But they did find a new county closer to Mississippi, kind of in the middle between Tennessee, Mississippi, and the Arkansas outbreak.
But Arkansas's had it for a number of years now.
That's correct. They think since the 80s, but Tennessee has come on strong and fast with it, so unfortunately.
So we need more samples. Folks, first of all, if it's for your health and safety, if you're eating the deer, to have the animal tested to make sure it is disease-free and CWD-free, because of the Centers for Disease Control says you shouldn't eat an animal that is CWD positive. That number one, but number two is to find out where this is and what we can do to try to stop it, and at least try to slow it down. Obviously, this deal in Tennessee is just. It's amazing. What are their plans up there? Have they got any plans? Are they going to try some slaughtering and some different things they're talking about doing? Or
they're kind of at the same state we are. We're both 2 years into this, and our second year into it. And before you can implement any major management strategies, whatever they may be, you got to figure out where the disease is. So you don't want to be focusing your efforts and the disease actually be ahead of you and or further south in this case, or wherever it may be. So the goal initially is to find the disease and find the prevalence so we have a starting point. But to do that, we need hunters to turn in a lot of samples so we can be confident that the numbers are true.
And obviously when we're talking about this, it's just, I mean, folks, it is so important that we find this out because, listen, we're going to live with this. We're going to be able to manage this, but we need the information.
That's correct.
Yeah.
We're going to manage CWD. We don't want it to manage the deer herd for us.
Mm-hmm. And that's so very, very important. William McKinley is here with us, and we're talking with him about CWD. We're talking about deer hunting, and we've been even talking about the second rut. So where would the rut be right now in Mississippi?
So
according to the rut map.
According to the rut map, it's the earliest in Northwest. It's done in Northwest.
Sure.
Deer or bucks are starting to focus back on filling their bellies in Northwest Mississippi, and there might be an occasional doe that hasn't come in yet, but for the most part, the rut is done. Bucks are focused on nutrition. Central Mississippi, we're kind of in that tail end of that last 20%, so there can be some really a lot of competition for the remaining does, and it's just getting started down in the southeast zone. So I remind people the season in southeast zone, south of Highway 84, east of 35, that goes. We have that special February 1 through February 15 buck-only season down there. That's because of that late rut. A lot of those health checks showed that a lot of those does were actually coming into heat late January to early February, so it's just getting kicked off down there.
Mm-hmm. And, folks, you can't kill them if you're not in the woods.
That means you need to go to your place down in South Mississippi.
Won't be long.
Covington County.
Shaping up.
Won't be long. Unfortunately, I didn't get anything planted this year. It's just going to be a hit or miss kind of thing. We have to get in the woods. You know what I mean?
Like you said, you can't shoot them at the house.
This is true. You're right. You can't shoot them at the house. Has a seed? Come on, this silly thing. Has a seed? Hang on. Maybe the fourth time I click on it, it'll finally pop up here. Has a CWD deer been found in Lafayette County?
No, we have not found it in Lafayette County. However, we have a positive in Panola and Marshall and Pontotoc, so kind of on three sides of Lafayette County.
Mm-hmm.
And
probably more than likely there are CWD positive deer there.
Most likely
Most
so.
likely.
We just haven't got those deer into a sample freezer to be tested. So,
How many samples do we have? Do we have a number?
yeah, 4791 as of this morning.
And how many did we get last year?
A little over 8,000.
We're not even halfway there.
No, we need a lot more. So,
That's the world we live in. Something becomes back burner news real quick.
mhm.
Super Talk Mississippi, William McKinley here with us. Only half the samples, folks. If you're killing deer, you need to be turning them in and letting folks know where we are because this is going to be the only way we're going to be able to manage this disease. You got the JT Show. We got more from them. Super Talk Mississippi. Hang on. You know, we talked about this many times before, William, but talking about image. And we know that there are people out there that would love nothing more than to stop people from hunting. Hell, you go look at the, look at the actors that were at the Golden Globes or whatever they had last week. They want to do away with animal agriculture.
Man,
There is a huge part.
there's Fruit Loops there, bro.
There's a lot of people out there that would do nothing more than enjoy to stop hunting and the harvesting of wildlife, and that's on us. But lots of corn bags on the side of the road, carcasses, garbage like this, and it's just total irresponsibility, in my opinion.
It is, JT, and I'm a hunter, and I'm proud to be a hunter. Venison is the meat on my table, but Christmas Eve, I'm traveling for Christmas. Been to my parents. I'm driving back to go to church that evening, and in a 46-mile trip, I saw it coming, so kind of made my blood boil a little. I started counting 136 corn sacks on the side of the highway in a 46-mile journey. That's unacceptable. That's embarrassing to me as a hunter. So I know that's just a few people doing that, but that few people is shining on the rest. So I'm asking folks out there, hunters, clean it up. That's probably bags being thrown in the back of a truck after they're emptied, and then they drive down the road and it blows out. Well, they're accumulating, so put them in the trash.
Mm-hmm. And, it's just, like I said, it's one of those things that you can continue to make. It just makes people look bad. If a hunter kills a deer, gives it to somebody else, can either hunter check it for CWD?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All they got to have is the head of that animal and drop it at any one of the 36 drop-off freezers across the state.
And I would suggest if somebody is giving you a deer, tell them you want the head to have it checked or either let them have it checked.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're going to feed it to your family.
And we're working with almost 75 taxidermists across the state. So if you're getting that deer mounted, it's not hard to find a taxidermist that's working with us across the state and saving heads.
Big deer. What about big deer? Have we had any really big bucks taken this season?
I've seen some pictures, one big non-typical from Winston County, really big typical from Panola, a few more out there that, but the true Boone and Crockett deer, a friend and I were talking about this past week. We're not seeing as many of the Boone and Crockett level deer this year. In fact, it seems to be down a little, but I attribute that a lot to we can't overstate how much rain we had in 2019. On the news, the last thing I saw was 99 inches. The average was 52. That was for east central Mississippi. That's an extra 4 feet of rain last year. That washed out plants. I see it from gardening. It reduces your yield. And so plants just weren't as nutritious. And thus, I think that shows.
So you're saying too much rain?
Too much rain.
That and coupled with our, breadbasket over there around the Mississippi River and the South Delta catching all those floods.
I know
Yep.
a buddy of mine. I mean, my buddy who planted, food plots they just didn't do it this
That
year.
was the early freeze. So that was prior to antler growth. I mean, the antler growth was done by then. But a lot of the brassicas planted early, your turnips, canola, kales, they died if they were germinating. Mine died. The wheat made it, the crimson clover made it, but a lot of those brassicas didn't make it. A lot of the stuff that was germinating when we hit, the teens in November, it didn't make it. But go back all the way through the summer, rivers were out, and that excessive rain that we had, it washed out the nutrients. Stuff was not as nutritious.
But there's hope, JT.
Yeah.
Because those deer have had another year
That's
of
right.
age, and this coming summer, hopefully the conditions will line back up, and next year could shape up to be.
And you mentioned the area that was
Boom.
impacted in the South Delta. The acorn crop in that area of the world, the acorns across the state appear to be good, but the acorn crop there is just outstanding. And those reports of harvested deer, there's so much fat, intestinal fat. They're having trouble finding the loins when they open up a deer when they're cleaning it. They're so fat. So that's going to carry over to some really good antler growth next year.
What are some strategies hunters can do here in these final weeks of the season, and how do you shift your tactics this time of year?
So if you're where the rut's tapering down, North Mississippi and even Central Mississippi in the last week of January, bucks are going to start hitting food plots. They're going to start coming out. They're going to hit food, and they're going to focus on that food, trying to fill up after, they go on one heck of a diet when they're chasing does. They may lose 25% of their body weight. So they're going to be coming out looking for food. With the rut kicking in South Mississippi, your standard old rut tactics, hunting scrapes, hunting crossings. We certainly have enough water to hunt water edge and sloughs this year, so I've seen that as a problem some years. But and don't forget, I mentioned rattling. That works. It works more than what the average hunter. You've got to make a lot of noise when you do it.
I was going to say, you can't just rattle. You got to get on the ground and make
That's
noise,
right.
too.
And wear a lot of orange. Okay, really.
Did deer
All
like
seriously. Negative, but you
That
may
was a
lure
joke.
in another
That was a
hunter
joke.
doing this. So quite often it's great to even tie an extra piece up above you so that anybody coming in, because you may be in a brush top on your knees rattling, make yourself visible. The deer can't see
people that are good at rattling, I mean, they'll get down on the ground, lay down, rattle, and make all kind of
Get in a
rattling.
brush
deer
top,
like
breaking
crazy.
limbs.
I
So
can't do
it's
I don't have any luck. I just
have.
They
beat my
need to
thumbs
push
up.
duck season more into February. Folks, they couldn't push it if they wanted to. That's a federal
That's
thing.
a
There's
federal
not a
thing,
thing in the
and
world they can do about it.
Most of the ducks are back in Canada by then anyway.
Yeah,
That's just a perception, I think.
right. And that's just the way it is. All right, we've had questions about the late primitive weapon season, the use of centerfire rifles. Explain to people what they need to know, because when you open it up, it basically says primitive weapons now.
Yeah, and so the primitive weapons seasons, we get a lot of questions about shotguns this time of year. And so like the break open type shotguns, but the law states that they're single or double barrel muzzle loading rifles of at least 38 caliber, single shot breech loading cartridge rifles 35 or larger, and that's single shot stuff. And if you do use a shotgun, it has to be a muzzle loading type shotgun. So just a single shot shotgun would not classify. And then during that primitive weapon season, with the appropriate licenses, you can use weapon of choice on private lands. And so that means that if you have a sportsman's license, you can use a 300 during primitive weapon season if you so desire.
Use whatever you want.
Yeah, and so
As long as you're on private lands and a sportsman's license.
Right.
Right. Well, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense, and that's what people need to pay attention to. Most important thing we need to tell people right now is the samples.
That's
We need
right.
samples.
We've added more does to the bag limit. We've added a bucket choice. We're asking that hunters harvest more deer, especially in those zones, but all over the state. We need to find this disease so that we can then move forward with management.
Try to deal with it. That's what's important, and we need to do that. So, how many have you taken a nice one yet?
I actually got a 5-year-old buck, small antlered, old deer though, next right by my house there, and that was very satisfying.
Old boy needed to come out of there.
That's right. Just a 7-point, not like I said, not a real big rack, but looked at him, ID'd him as a mature deer, and was able, right there on the home place. So wonderful.
Yep, that's a good thing right there. All right, we're going to come back. We'll wrap up Mississippi Outdoors Radio. We're going to talk a little bit about Mississippi Outdoors TV, which is also brought to you by the Foundation for Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, just like Mississippi Outdoors Radio. And we'll do that when we come back. We'll tell you what's happening there. There you go, Super Talk Mississippi, Mississippi Outdoors Radio, brought to you by Foundation for Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. As always, here with you in our final segment here today. And we'll be talking about some Mississippi Outdoors TV, also brought to you by the Foundation for Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. Adam Butler.
Yeah, JT, we got some couple of interesting segments this year. We're in the the 30th anniversary season of Mississippi Outdoors Television, and so we had a little time off there a couple weeks back where we were doing some reruns, but we're back to new episodes. And this week we've got 3 segments I think the audience will find interesting. In the opening segment, we're doing something never before done on Mississippi Outdoors Television. It's going to be the first ever woodcock hunt on Mississippi Outdoors TV. So that's going to be cool. Need to check that out.
What is that?
Yeah, watch the show, man.
Is that like a woodpecker?
Well,
Stuff in your.
it's a little bird. You hunt them with bird dogs, just like the old timey.
Are they any good to
quail.
eat?
Can be,
Oh,
but
they can be a bad experience.
it's like waterfowl, man. It's like ducks. If you overcook it, it's not good.
Yeah.
You gotta do it just
Do you
right.
hunt woodcock?
I may or may not be on this episode.
Uh-huh.
Reed.
You may or may not be.
See, there's questions are leading up.
He don't know if he
I
made
don't-
the
you know,
cut
don't
room
wanna-
floor or not.
Oh,
Reed,
he's
I
in
don't-
it. He's all up in it.
I don't want to brag, but
It's the only reason
I
it's on
got
the
I got a
show.
little bird dog that's pretty good, and she's gonna make a
You
little
got a
appearance
couple
on
of
the
'em.
TV. Yeah.
Travel the country abroad.
Yeah, there you
Oh,
go.
so we're going to see your little bird dog.
See the little bird dog.
What's her
Yeah.
name? I can't ask. Is that not
Yeah,
a good
just,
question?
Just watch the show, JT.
Oh,
It's
okay.
gonna
You're
be-
you're
it's gonna be
trying to
good.
do suspense.
It's gonna be
We're
here.
trying to hold you on a
It'll
hook
be good.
right there.
Oh,
Keep the
I got
tension
you.
on it.
Yeah.
What am I?
Copy.
I'm a broadcaster. I should know better.
Yeah. All right, look, the middle segment going to be joining our fisheries division, looking at state lake and pond management and all the work that they're doing. And then the wrap up is going to be a wading fishing trip. So wading a creek, catching bass, creek bass. So Mississippi Outdoors airs Thursday nights at 7:30 on Mississippi Public Broadcasting. And if you miss it Thursday, you can watch the re-air on Saturday at 5:30. And then we usually have that posted on the website and YouTube and all that good stuff.
And you can
thereafter.
find out the name of Adam's little bird
Yeah.
dog. You can find out right then and there. Sounds like I'm going to have to tune in now.
Check it out, JT.
Yeah, there you go.
In the presence of greatness.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Going woodcock hunting. I
That's
don't
it.
think I've
They got
ever
long
done-
beaks.
think
Long
I
beaks.
do. I don't think I've ever done that.
You know,
Are they
JT,
related to the
I grew
snipe?
up with listening to my granddaddy's old stories about bird hunting way back in the day and bird dogs and all that, and I was just always had that interest. And not many people hunt woodcock, and it's kind of an excuse to have a bird dog. So that's
Well,
what I did.
I started talking about this. I remember growing up, my dad was a big bird hunter and a squirrel hunter. He loved to deer hunt,
Mhm.
but him and his brothers and it was mostly bird and squirrel, and I attribute it to the fact we just didn't have as many deer back then, and that was why bird hunting and squirrel hunting and small game hunting was so much more popular, because you could be successful. Where deer hunting, it was hard to come across a deer, and if you did, it was something big, you know.
Yeah, you're really right.
Wouldn't you think so?
It was probably what you say, in the mid '70s before deer season or deer hunting really started catching on at all. And
Yeah, it's really the 80s.
Yeah, I was going to say, guys, I'm going to have to venture in probably early 90s before we really got to the point where you were seeing deer, and late 80s, early 90s, where you could go and see deer.
A lot of parts of the state, even in the early 90s, had very, very few deer. We were still restocking in the 70s. So areas like Holmes County and Yazoo County was still in a restocking phase in the 1970s.
Wow.
So
Hard to believe.
how far we've come.
Hard to believe. And, all right, any closing thoughts? We got about a minute here.
Go hunting.
Go hunting. And more than that, make sure that you turn in those heads if you could. We really desperately need you to do that.
this week looks kind of like a washout for most of the week.
Clean
but
your
the long range
guns.
forecast next
Yeah,
week looks like
that's
it's going to be
right.
really
Take a
nice.
break, do some chores around the house.
Go
So
ahead
you
and turn
can-
in for vacation for next week when it's cooling off. Take an extra
or
day
sick
or two
days, whatever.
Yeah.
The weather keeps changing. I got a
off.
sinus.
Predict an illness.
Well, yeah, whatever it takes. Get out there.
Yeah, well, get out there, and there's still some good. Like I said, there is a good. It's a great time to hunt, and sometimes the pressure's off a little bit.
Houston's
That's
got
right.
the Ducks on the way. It's just going to finish out strong.
Yeah. And like I said, it can be some good times where you can actually get out there. Maybe not as much pressure as one would think. So you can find ducks for sure. All you got to do is go out there and look for them. Deer the same as well. William, it's good to see you, buddy.
You too.
Happy New Year to you, man. And appreciate that. Major Reed, thank you. We're glad you and all your officers being safe out there.
Well, we appreciate your support, JT.
And I can't wait to see your bird dog on TV, Adam.
Check it out.
All right, buddy. Y'all have a good rest of the day. We'll talk to you tomorrow live from the Capitol in downtown Jackson for the inauguration of Governor-elect Tate Reeves. Governor-elect Tate Reeves brought to you by Ingalls Shipbuilding. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.